A federal court today saying yes to an incredibly important question looming over our democracy. Can presidents be held accountable by the justice system for crimes committed while in office? A unanimous ruling by a 3-judge panel on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals rejected Donald Trump's claims of immunity in the federal election case. The decision by the judges is a stinging rebuke of the ex-president in what has become a months-long push to get the charges against him dismissed. In their ruling, the judges make the point that while Donald Trump is a former president of the United States, he is, in the eyes of the law, just another criminal defendant. Quote, for the purposes of this criminal case, former President Trump has become Citizen Trump, with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant. But any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against this prosecution. The judges rejected the argument advanced by Trump's lawyers that prosecuting presidents for things they did in office would have a chilling effect on the office of the presidency, finding, in fact, that the possibility of legal accountability would, in fact, be a boost to the rule of law. Quote, the risk of criminal liability chilling presidential action appears to be low. Instead of inhibiting the president's lawful discretionary action, the prospect of federal criminal liability might serve as a structural benefit to deter possible abuses of power and criminal behavior. The court also makes it clear that the basic principles of our government are at stake and that granting Trump immunity would be a cross the Rubicon moment for our democracy. Quote, former President Trump's alleged efforts to remain in power despite losing the 2020 election were, if proven, an unprecedented assault on the structure of our government. He allegedly injected himself into a process in which the president has no role. The counting and certifying of the Electoral College votes, thereby undermining constitutionally established procedures and the will of the Congress. We cannot accept former President Trump's claim that a president has unbounded authority to commit crimes that would neutralize the most fundamental check on executive power, the recognition and implementation of election results. Nor can we sanction his apparent contention that the executive has carte blanche to violate the rights of individual citizens to vote and to have their votes count. Donald Trump now has 6 days until next Monday to ask the Supreme Court to stop the clock on the federal election case pending an appeal. And that is where we start this hour with the former top official at the Department of Justice and MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissmann, plus the former lead investigator for the January 6th Select Committee, Tim Heaphy, and the former United States Senator and co-host of MSNBC's How to Win 2024 podcast, Claire McCaskill. Welcome to all three of you this morning. Andrew, you and I were together on the day when we heard Donald Trump's team's arguments to the Third Circuit. I don't recall exactly the words you used that day, but you were incredulous. You had some version of this is novel. The court seems to have agreed with you.
Yes, I think you misspoke, the D.C. Circuit, but yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to actually borrow a page from my colleague, former Senator Claire McCaskill, because I think we all understood that this decision was going to come out this way. As you said, Ellie, the argument was so outlandish that we knew that this would be a decision against Donald Trump. But I do think that this is a place where the legal ruling is so sweeping and so resounding and unanimous and clear in its upholding what it means to be a country governed by the rule of law, that there really, I think, is an important political aspect to how this should be used, because you have somebody who is running for the presidency as to whom a unanimous court of judges made up of people appointed by both Republicans and Democrats, where the court said the following: at bottom, former President Trump's stance would collapse our system of separated powers by placing the president beyond the reach of all three branches. He would be beyond the reach of Congress, he would be beyond the reach of the executive branch and the judiciary. So I think that the message to the American public is, yes, he is not immune from criminal prosecution, but are you really going to say that this is somebody who you want to see in the White House again, who is taking this position where the judiciary has made it absolutely clear that his position has no place in our constitutional democracy, no place at all. This is really a resounding victory, not just for the prosecution team, not just for Judge Chutkan, the trial judge, but I think for all Americans of whatever political persuasions in terms of what it means to be a citizen in this country.
Claire, I want to remind everybody about that day. I think a lot of Americans ended up listening to the oral arguments. You couldn't see them, but you could hear the recordings. And the remarkable questions that the judges were asking Donald Trump's lawyer, lead attorney there, who was a fairly learned fellow, and I think he was being put in a position where he had to make political arguments in a court of law, including the argument that, you know, when the judge said, could SEAL Team 6 order the president to, you know, be ordered to kill the president's opponents, and would he be immune? And Trump's lawyers seem to think so. These judges have said not only was Trump's team wrong in suggesting that presidents would be looking over their shoulder and hence be impeded from their duties, but in fact, this would be a positive incentive. If they thought they could be prosecuted for crimes, then perhaps they wouldn't commit crimes while in office.
Yeah, you know, the snarky part of me wants to make a flippant comment like, you know, Trump, so much winning. You know, this is a guy who I don't think has won a lawsuit yet on anything that matters. But the other part of me, and Andrew kind of referenced this really should be a day that we should celebrate our Constitution and the rule of law that is held fast in this country since its founding. The idea that there are checks and balances in our system, the idea that courts will make a decision based on the facts and the law and not who you are. They will not be intimidated like the Speaker of the House has been intimidated. They will not be intimidated like many members, Republican members of Congress, have been intimidated by the bully at Mar-a-Lago. They are going to stand up and read the law and apply the law to the facts and make a decision. And this is really a happy day for America. I don't know what's going to happen in the Colorado case. I don't know if the Supreme Court will take this case. I kind of doubt they will. But today's a day that we should take a moment, take a deep breath and go, you know what? So far, so good. It's working the way it's supposed to work in our country.
Tim, this isn't a trial. This was just a determination of whether the president, the former president, is immune from prosecution. There's still a trial to be had, although watching Donald Trump's social media post this afternoon, you'd think this one was done. Let's talk about this. You were the lead investigator on the January 6th committee, for which, whether it's the committee or the various trials that have taken place for those who were involved in January 6th, there is a concern that accountability has not yet been had at the highest levels. Now, according to this court, possibly, as Claire says, we're a step closer to real accountability for what happened on January 6th.
Yeah, Ali, exactly. Look, let's go back. After January 6th occurred, there was a process put in place by Congress, the victim of that awful attack, to gather facts. So the Select Committee talked to a lot of people, gathered facts, and found evidence of the potential violations of federal criminal law. Congress can't do anything with that. That's an executive function. So there was a referral made to the Department of Justice and a disclosure of all of that evidence, of all the documents and all the images and all of the interviews. The executive then went further, developed those facts further, and brought forth a criminal indictment. That is now landing in the third and final branch of government, appropriately, as Claire said. That's the way the system is supposed to work. The judiciary, where those facts will be adjudicated, where a jury of 12 people, citizens of the District of Columbia, will listen to the evidence, will be instructed by a federal judge, and will decide if those facts give rise to the charges that are alleged. That is the way our system works, right? At every stage of the process, that branch has done its constitutional duty by bringing forth facts, evaluating them, and then ultimately the greatest thing about democracy is it goes to regular people. Nobody else can make a decision here, an ultimate decision, other than regular citizens of the United States who are sitting in that jury box. So your question about accountability, we're closer to that day when regular people will make that decision. It's yet another hurdle before we get to that adjudication that's now been appropriately cleared.
Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion.
Security, may bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We're facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark.